She thought she had it all: love, comfort, and control. To her, loyalty was optional and lies were just part of the game. Every secret message, every hidden night out made her feel untouchable. But life doesn't forget. Because somewhere in the quiet corners of her choices, karma was already watching, waiting. And when it finally knocked on her door, it didn't ask for permission. It came with a lesson she could never forget. It started like any modern love story. Two people drawn together by charm, laughter, and the promise of forever. Maya was the kind of woman who could light up a room with a smile, and Daniel fell for her effortlessly. They built a life that looked perfect from the outside. Weekend trips, dinner dates, matching pictures online. Everyone envied them. But behind closed doors, Maya was restless. The attention she once cherished now felt ordinary. She wanted more and more excitement, more validation, more power. And when a coworker started showing her the kind of flattery she missed, she didn't resist. She told herself it was harmless, just messages, small lies, nothing serious. Daniel trusted her completely. Every late night at work went unquestioned, every excuse accepted without a doubt. He believed in love, she believed in getting away with it. What Maya didn't realize was that betrayal has a way of leaving footprints, and sooner or later, they always lead home. The messages became meetings. The lies became routine. What began as a thrill slowly turned into a second life. Maya balanced her two worlds like a seasoned player: breakfast kisses for Daniel, secret afternoon calls for someone else. She was careful, or so she thought, but karma never rushes. It waits, and it watches. One evening, as rain poured against the windows, Maya returned home to find Daniel smiling, calm, too calm. He asked about her day, her work, her plans for the weekend. His eyes didn't move from hers, and for the first time in months, she felt something unusual: fear. She laughed it off, but her heartbeat betrayed her. Over the next few days, strange things began happening. The coworker who once flooded her phone suddenly stopped replying. Deleted messages reappeared. A photo she swore she had erased was sitting in her recent files. And one night, a message came from an unknown number. Does Daniel know? Maya's stomach dropped. She tried to trace it, delete it, pretend it didn't exist. But she couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching. Daniel's kindness felt colder now, his words too measured, his touch too light. Then came the envelope. Plain, unmarked, left at their doorstep. Inside were printed screenshots, messages, photos, timestamps, everything she thought was buried. She froze as she saw her own words staring back at her, every lie immortalized in ink. Daniel didn't say a word. He didn't need to. The silence between them screamed louder than any confrontation. That night, Maya didn't sleep. Every sound in the house felt like judgment, every shadow whispered her name. She checked her phone obsessively, but the number that once sent her flattery had gone dead. Alone in the dark, she realized something terrifying. This wasn't Daniel's revenge. This was something else, something she had called upon herself. And karma had just begun to knock. The morning after Daniel disappeared, Maya woke up to a silence that felt alive. It wasn't just quiet, it was heavy, pressing against her chest like a weight she couldn't shake off. The bed was still warm on one side, the outline of his body faint on the sheets. She reached out, half expecting to feel him there, but her hand touched only emptiness. His toothbrush was gone. His favorite mug, the one he used every morning, missing from the counter. Every trace of him seemed to have vanished overnight. And yet his presence lingered everywhere, in the faint smell of his cologne, in the shirt hanging behind the door, in the way the floor creaked under her feet. At first, Maya told herself he needed space. Maybe he'd found out, maybe he was hurt, but he'd come back. She made breakfast, sat by the table, waiting. Minutes passed, then hours. The sun climbed higher and still. Nothing. By noon, her phone had turned into an obsession. She kept checking it, refreshing the screen, waiting for a call, a message, anything. Each vibration made her heart leap. Each silence crushed it a little more. Then that text came. Unknown number. You played your game. Now it's my turn. Her blood ran cold. For a moment, she couldn't move. The words burned into her mind, simple, direct, terrifying. Was it Daniel? The coworker? Someone else? She tried calling the number back. No answer. She tried again. Still nothing. Her hand shook as she dropped the phone on the table. The sound echoed through the empty apartment like a slap. That night, she didn't sleep. The ticking clock mocked her with every second that passed. The guilt she'd buried under lies started crawling back to the surface, whispering, accusing. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Daniel's calm face. No anger, no tears. Just quiet knowing. And that was worse than rage, because rage fades, but silence? Silence lingers. By the second day, her reflection had changed. The confident smile was gone, replaced by dark circles and trembling lips. She avoided mirrors now. She couldn't stand the sight of herself, the liar, the betrayer, the woman who thought she could outsmart consequence. But karma doesn't shout, it whispers. And every whisper sounded like Daniel's voice saying, I know. The third night felt endless. Maya hadn't eaten, hadn't slept, her body was alive, but her mind was splintering. The apartment felt smaller now, as if the walls were inching closer each time she blinked. Shadows moved where they shouldn't. Every creak, every gust of wind outside made her flinch. She sat on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, staring at her phone. The same message still glared back at her. You played your game. Now it's my turn. She'd read it 100 times, maybe more. Sometimes she thought the words were changing, shifting slightly when she wasn't looking. She'd blink and the screen would show, you deserve this. She blinked again, gone. Her mind was betraying her the same way she betrayed him. She tried to call her best friend, but the voice on the other side sounded strange, distant, as if she was speaking through static. Maya, are you okay? Her throat tightened. He's gone. Who? But the call dropped before she could answer. Every connection she reached for seemed to disappear, calls failing, messages unsent. It was as if the universe itself was isolating her, forcing her to face what she'd done. At 2:37 a.m., she heard a knock at the door. 3 soft knocks. Her breath froze. She waited. Silence. Then again, knock. Knock, knock. She gathered what courage she had left and opened the door. Nothing. No one. Only a small envelope on the floor. Inside, a photograph. Her and Daniel, smiling. Behind them, the reflection of another man in the mirror. The same man she thought no one knew about. Her legs went weak. The photo slipped from her fingers. She stumbled back, her chest tightening with panic. Who took this? When? How? She tore through the apartment, searching for hidden cameras, whispering to herself, this isn't real, this isn't real. But the more she searched, the more she found subtle, haunting reminders. A keychain on the table she didn't own. A perfume scent she never wore. The faint sound of Daniel's favorite song playing from somewhere she couldn't locate. Her heart pounded as she realized she wasn't just haunted by guilt anymore, she was being watched. That's when she started seeing him, not in person, but in flashes. In the window's reflection, in the hallway mirror. Daniel, staring, silent, expressionless. Sometimes she'd blink and he'd vanish. Sometimes he'd still be there, unmoving, his eyes like dark glass, not angry, not sad, just knowing. She began talking to him, whispering into the silence. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. I thought it didn't matter. Her voice cracked. The words dissolved into sobs. Days bled into nights. She forgot how long it had been since she'd gone outside. The curtains stayed drawn, the lights dim. Her mind was a storm, guilt, fear, regret all crashing together. And through it all, one truth echoed louder and louder. She hadn't just lost Daniel. She'd lost herself. Because betrayal doesn't end when the other person leaves. It begins when you start realizing what you've destroyed. And now, piece by piece, Maya could feel karma collecting its debt, not with violence, but with silence. The kind of silence that slowly eats away your sanity. By the 5th day, time had stopped meaning anything to Maya. The clocks on our walls had all died, batteries drained, hands frozen at random hours. Morning felt like night. Night felt like forever. The food on the table was untouched. Her reflection in the dark television screen looked hollow, sunken eyes, trembling lips, a stranger wearing her face. She whispered to it sometimes, "Do you forgive me?" No answer, just the hum of silence pressing against her chest. Then one morning, or maybe it was evening, she found something she didn't remember owning. A small mirror. Oval-shaped, old-fashioned, resting neatly on her dresser. It wasn't there before, she was sure of it. Her fingers brushed against the glass. It felt colder than ice, and in that instant she saw him again. Daniel, behind her, she turned. Empty room. Her breath quivered. Slowly, she looked back at the mirror, and there he was again, closer this time. The corners of his lips barely moved, but she heard the words echo inside her head. You thought it was a game. She stumbled back, her heart pounding. No, no, this isn't real. She shouted, but her voice cracked halfway, breaking like glass. The mirror flickered, her reflection now shifting between herself and Daniel's lifeless face. His eyes stared into her soul, reflecting everything she tried to bury. The nights of lies, the laughter after deceit, the moment she said it didn't mean anything, but now it meant everything. Maya fell to her knees, shaking. Please, stop, she whispered. But the mirror didn't stop. Images began to flash, her betrayal replayed like a film. Her messages, her secret meetings, the night Daniel had walked in, the look in his eyes before he left. The tears she never shed, the apology she never gave. Now she saw them all, looping endlessly, like punishment crafted by guilt itself. Then a sound broke the silence, a faint knock again. 3 times, same rhythm. Same silence after. She turned toward the door, but this time she didn't move, because through the mirror she saw what was standing there. It wasn't Daniel, not anymore, it was her. The reflection of herself dressed the way she was on the night of betrayal. Smiling that same careless smile she wore when she thought cheating was just a game. The reflection stepped forward inside the mirror, even as Maya stood frozen outside it. Their eyes locked, one hollow, one mocking. And then her reflection whispered, now you know how it feels. The glass shattered. 1,000 shards fell across the floor, glittering like tears under the dim light. But each shard still held an image, a different version of her. Laughing, lying, regretting, screaming. Maya screamed too, falling into the chaos, clutching her head. Every sound around her, every whisper, every heartbeat became Daniel's voice repeating that one line. You played your game. Now it's my turn. She crawled toward the broken mirror, bleeding from her palms, her breath shallow and desperate. And there, on the largest shard, her reflection smiled back at her, not with malice, but with pity. You can't escape yourself, Maya, it said. Karma lives inside you now. Her tears mixed with the blood on the floor as she whispered back, I know. And in that moment, she stopped fighting, stopped running. Because she realized the punishment wasn't death or exposure or revenge from someone else. It was having to live with herself. That was the real sentence. The kind that never ends. The night of the storm came without warning. Thunder rolled over the city like an omen, and rain lashed against Maya's apartment windows as if trying to break in. She sat in the middle of the living room floor, surrounded by broken mirror shards. Each one still reflected pieces of her, eyes red, hands trembling, mind fractured. Her phone buzzed. The screen lit up with a single notification. One missed call, Daniel. Her blood turned cold. Daniel was gone. Dead. She had seen the funeral, seen his mother cry, seen the grave. Her trembling fingers tapped the call log again. The number was real. The time stopped just now. Lightning flashed outside. The apartment lights flickered. She whispered, Daniel? No answer, only static from her phone speaker, faint, distant, like a breath in the dark. Then a voice, broken, echoing. You thought it was love you could borrow, but karma always collects. The phone slipped from her hand. She froze. The voice hadn't come from the phone this time. It came from behind her. Slowly, she turned. Daniel was standing there, not ghostly, not decayed, but real. Real enough that she could see the raindrops glistening on his shoulders. Real enough that she could hear his quiet breath. But his eyes were empty. Not angry, not forgiving, just still endless, like he had seen everything and nothing at once. Maya couldn't move. Her lips trembled. I didn't mean to. He lifted his hand and she stopped mid-sentence. No, he said softly, not in her ear as in her mind. You meant every moment, you just didn't think it would matter. Her breath caught. Tears blurred her vision. I loved you, she whispered. He tilted his head. Did you? Or did you just love the way I made you feel safe while you played with fire? The words cut deeper than any blade could. Maya dropped to her knees, sobbing. I'm sorry, she gasped. Please, just let me. He knelt beside her, his expression unreadable. Forgiveness isn't mine to give. You already met your judge. Her trembling eyes looked up at him. Who? He leaned closer, whispering, yourself. And then he was gone. No thunder, no scream, no explosion. Just silence, heavy, suffocating silence that wrapped around her like chains. The air felt different, colder, cleaner, almost peaceful. Maya sat there for a long time, staring at the floor where he had stood. And slowly, she realized something had changed. The apartment wasn't haunted anymore. The shadows were still. The air no longer whispered his name, because the haunting wasn't from Daniel. It was from her conscience, and now she had faced it. But peace didn't feel like forgiveness. It felt like emptiness. She stood up and walked to the window. Rain still fell, washing the city below, cleansing everything it touched. She pressed her hand against the glass. Her reflection stared back, pale, hollow, but human again. And for the first time in weeks, she spoke to it without fear. I understand now. Her reflection blinked once, almost like it was alive, and whispered back, "Then you can start living with it." The storm outside began to fade. But inside her, a different kind of storm would never end. Morning came quietly. The storm was gone, leaving behind a washed-out sky, pale, distant, and empty like her. Maya hadn't slept, but for the first time in weeks, she didn't feel afraid. She moved slowly, picking up the shards of glass one by one, careful not to cut herself again. Each shard reflected a different angle of her face, fragile, broken, but alive. She placed them in a small box and locked it away inside her closet, not because she wanted to forget, but because she needed to remember. Days turned into weeks. She started walking outside again. No makeup, no smile, just quiet eyes that carried too much history. The world hadn't changed, but she had. The city noises that once comforted her now sounded hollow, as if echoing her own guilt back at her. At the coffee shop where she used to meet Daniel, people still laughed, couples still held hands. Life went on, cruelly indifferent to her suffering. She sat in a corner, watching them, wondering how something as fragile as trust could be broken so easily, and how something as strong as love could die so quietly. Sometimes she'd write letters to him, not to send, just to say the things she never said. "Dear Daniel," one began, "I thought I knew what love was. But I only loved comfort, not truth. I hurt you because I couldn't face myself. Now I do every day." She filled dozens of pages. None of them brought peace, but each word was a step closer to honesty. At night, she dreamed of him, not the angry, haunting version, but the one who used to smile softly when he caught her staring. In the dreams, he never spoke. He just looked at her as if asking, "Do you finally understand?" And she always woke up whispering, "Yes." One evening, she visited his grave. The grass had grown over, wild and soft, like time itself trying to cover what humans could not. She placed the box of mirror shards on the stone and knelt beside it. "I used to think karma was punishment," she said softly, "but it's not, it's memory. The kind that follows you until you learn what it was trying to teach." The wind moved gently through the trees, almost like a sigh. A single tear rolled down her cheek, not of fear, not of guilt this time, but of acceptance. She stood and turned to leave, but before walking away, she whispered one last thing. "Goodbye, Daniel, I hope you're at peace. Because now I'm finally ready to find mine." As she walked back down the quiet path, the sun dipped low in the horizon. The light touched her face, soft, forgiving. For a moment, she almost believed it. Weeks later, Maya began volunteering at a crisis shelter, a place filled with stories of betrayal, loss, and survival. She never told anyone her story. She just listened. Because sometimes the greatest apology isn't a word. It's the act of making sure no one else repeats her mistake. At night, she'd look out her window at the rain and smile faintly. She had learned that karma doesn't always destroy. Sometimes it rebuilds by forcing you to live with the truth long enough to change it. And that was her forever, not punishment, not redemption, just the weight of knowing, and the strength of carrying it. The world forgot her story, but she never forgot his eyes, the mirror where her humanity was tested, broken, and reborn. Karma had come, yes, but it didn't come to end her life. It came to wake it.